Achieving any goal isn't about believing things would miraculously improve or relying on luck. It's about following a set of principles that steadily drive you toward the results you seek. Over the years, I've devised a 5-step approach that can take you from where you are now to where you want to be, regardless of your ambition. These steps are straightforward, but don't confuse simple with easy. They demand discipline, focus, and tenacity. But if you stick to them, I guarantee you'll get closer to your goals than you ever imagined imaginable. The first step to reaching any goal is clarity. Without clarity, meaningful development is impossible. Think about how many people are out there right now stating they want more out of life, but they don't actually know what it looks like. They desire something different, something better, but they've never taken the effort to define it. They say things like, "I want more money," or "I want to be successful." But what does it even mean? How much money? What kind of success? Without specifics, without being absolutely clear about what you want, you'll find up pursuing nebulous concepts and come up short every time. Clarity is the bedrock of success. It's like aiming at a target. If you don't know exactly what the target looks like, how can you possibly hit it? You can't. You'll miss every single time. So the first thing you must do is describe your aim in clear, concrete, and measurable terms. Take the time to question yourself, what exactly do I want? If it's financial freedom, what does it mean? Do you want to earn $100,000 a year? The $500,000? Or maybe money isn't the focus, it's the lifestyle. Do you want to work less hours and spend more time with your family? What does that ideal timetable look like? How many hours a week do you wish to work? How much spare time do you want? The more explicit you are about your goal, the more power you allow yourself to attain it. Once you have that clarity, the next step is to picture it. Close your eyes and imagine yourself actually living that desire. Picture what your life looks like when you've achieved it. What are you doing? How do you feel? Who are you with? That mental vision becomes the pattern for your success. Your mind will begin to strive toward what it can plainly perceive. What the mind can conceive, it can turn into reality. But if the image is fuzzy, if the goal is vague, your mind has nothing to strive towards. Years ago, I met a young man at one of my seminars. He was ambitious and full of enthusiasm, yet he lacked direction. He told me he wanted to be rich, but when I asked how much money he wanted to make, he had no answer. He hadn't thought it through. He simply knew he wanted more. I told him, "You can't hit a target you can't see." So he went home and did precisely that. He wrote down a number, 200,000, before the end of the year. And you know what happened? Once he got clear on that figure, he started making decisions that corresponded with that goal. He concentrated his energy, time, and resources on chances that got him closer to the 200,000 mark. And by the end of the year, he hit it. If you haven't previously, sit down and write out your aim in detail. Be specific. Be clear. The more particular you are, the more focused you'll be. And the more focused you are, the faster you'll make progress. Once you have clarity, the following step is to design a plan. A goal without a plan is just a dream. It's not genuine unless you've sketched out the actions to achieve it. Too frequently, people pick a goal and stop there. They declare, "I want to lose 20 pounds," or "I want to double my income," but they never take the time to think out how they'll make it happen. Without a strategy, you're just roaming, hoping for the best. A plan is like a roadmap. It shows you the way from where you are to where you want to be. And here's the thing, your plan doesn't have to be perfect. You don't need every single step thought out before you begin. In fact, if you wait until everything is properly mapped, you'll never start. The beauty of a plan is that it changes. You adjust as you go. But what matters is having a starting point, a framework that provides you direction. Think of it like this: if you're taking a road trip across the country, you don't need to know every single turn before you leave. You merely need to know the key highways, the general route. Then, you may adapt for traffic, weather, or unforeseen detours along the way, but you still need that initial map to start rolling. So, once you've gained clarity on your goal, the next issue is, how do I get there? Break it down into smaller steps. Let's say your aim is to drop 20 pounds. Instead of focusing on the huge number, make a goal to lose 1 or 2 pounds a week, Ask yourself, what changes do I need to make in my diet? How often will you exercise? What resources will you need to keep on track? Do you need a trainer, an exercise buddy, or a meal plan? Be specific with your plan, just like you were with your goal. The key to a strong strategy is that it's actionable and achievable. Too often, people make big plans they can't maintain. They say things like, I'm going to work out 2 hours every day, cut out all sugar, and run a marathon by the end of the month. But that's not sustainable. A solid plan ought to be one you can stick with over time. It's better to start small and create momentum than to burn out by doing too much too fast. Maybe your goal is to start a business. So how can you transform that dream into something real? Begin with the basics. What kind of business do you want to build? Who will your customers be? What do you need to learn before launching? Break it down step by step. First, you might investigate your market. Then, you could draft a business strategy. After that, look into funding or start saving money. It doesn't matter how modest the steps are. What counts is that they keep you going forward. When I was getting started, I didn't know every step to success, but I did know I had to keep studying and growing. So, I established a plan to read a predetermined quantity of books each month. I arranged time to meet with mentors, and I made sure to apply what I learned every day. My plan wasn't perfect. I altered it as I went, but it gave me the framework I needed to stay focused. Remember, flexibility is crucial. Life happens. Things won't always go as planned, and that's good. If something doesn't work, adjust. Revise your approach. Try a fresh method. But don't give up on the aim. That's why reviewing your plan regularly is so vital. Set aside time each week to check in. Are you making progress? Do your acts need adjusting? Sometimes you'll need to pivot. Maybe a new opportunity comes up, or maybe you realize you need a new ability to move forward. Whatever it is, always open to change, but always keep your eyes on the goal. Now, the fourth phase is accountability. This is something most people forget, yet it's crucial if you want to stay consistent. When you're accountable to someone else, a buddy, mentor, or coach, you're much more likely to follow through. Why? Because accountability produces a sense of responsibility. It provides a layer of external pressure that keeps you pushing forward, even when you don't feel like it. Here's the thing about goals: it's easy to make commitments to yourself, but just as easy to break them. You tell yourself you'll start working on your goal tomorrow, but tomorrow arrives and you put it off again. When no one is looking, it's easy to let yourself off the hook. But when someone's keeping you accountable, someone who expects you to show up and deliver, you're a lot less inclined to quit. Let me share a situation when accountability made a tremendous difference in my life. I was working on a huge project, and I knew it would take months of steady effort to finish. I didn't want to risk being sidetracked or losing focus, so I enlisted the services of a mentor. Every week, we'd sit down and review my progress. Just knowing I had to report to someone else kept me on track. I didn't want to show up empty-handed, so I pushed myself to make progress every week. Accountability doesn't have to be formal. You don't need to hire a coach or find a mentor if that's not an option. You can just locate a friend or colleague working on their own goals and hold each other accountable. Set up a system where you check in regularly, communicate your progress, and support one another to keep on track. And if you can't find someone to keep you accountable, hold yourself accountable. One of the greatest ways to do this is by recording your success. Keep a notebook, develop a checklist, or create a habit tracker. Whatever works for you, just make sure you stay honest. Seeing your success, or lack of it, in black and white is a great motivator to keep going. Remember, responsibility keeps you moving when motivation fades. It adds structure and keeps you from falling off track. So when you've achieved clarity, made a strategy, and begun taking action, make sure you have a structure in place to keep accountable. Now, the final stage to achieving any goal is persistence. This phase differentiates those who succeed from those who fall short. Most individuals give up too soon. They create a goal, make a strategy, take action, but when things get tough, when they hit a roadblock or face a setback, they give up. Persistence is what turns aspirations into realities. It's the willingness to keep going no matter how hard it gets. Persistence separates winners from quitters. It's the ability to keep pushing forward even when the going becomes rough. Even when progress feels slow or obstacles emerge, most people don't fail because their goals are too great or because they lack ability. They fail because they give up too quickly. They quit at the first sight of trouble, letting momentary difficulties become permanent roadblocks. But tenacity is what pulls you through those terrible situations. How many people do you know who started something full of excitement and energy, but then encountered a hard spot and stopped? They never made it to the other side. Now imagine if they had just continued going for another week, another month, or another year. What if they had pushed a bit harder? Success doesn't come to those who try once or twice then quit up. It comes to those who persist at it, who are prepared to fail, learn from those failures, and try again. Look at Colonel Sanders. He wasn't an overnight success. In fact, he didn't start KFC until he was in his 60s. Before that, his life was riddled of disappointments and failures. He worked as a farmhand, a streetcar conductor, a railroad fireman, and even managed a law firm that collapsed. At one point, he managed a modest service station in Kentucky, where he served the now famous fried chicken. Here's the kicker: when he tried to franchise his recipe, he was refused over 1,000 times. Yes, over 1,000 times. Imagine a man in his 60s with very little to his name driving across the country, knocking on doors to sell his chicken recipe, and being turned down repeatedly. Most individuals would have given up after a few rejections. But not Colonel Sanders. He believed in his goods and was relentless. He continued going, no matter how many times he was denied. Finally, after years of patience, one restaurant owner said yes. That signaled the beginning of what would become a global brand. Today, KFC operates in over 100 countries. None of that would have happened if Colonel Sanders had quit after those 1,000 rejections. That's what persistence looks like: the desire to move forward, even when the chances appear against you. Colonel Sanders didn't let failure define him. He utilized each rejection as a stepping stone to success. He didn't quit just because things didn't work right immediately. He kept knocking on doors, modified his approach, and eventually found the breakthrough he needed. And that's the power of persistence, staying committed even when everything seems to urge you to quit. The key is realizing that setbacks aren't permanent. They're transient. They're part of the process. Every great success story is fraught with setbacks, hurdles, and disappointments. But the difference between those who succeed and those who don't is that the successful ones keep going. They consider setbacks as lessons, as opportunities to progress. They don't let difficulty stop them. They keep moving forward. Here's a little secret about persistence. The moment you feel like giving up, the moment when everything seems the toughest, that's usually when you're closest to a breakthrough. Most individuals stop right before they're about to achieve. It's like the story of the man digging for gold. He had been digging for weeks, possibly months, without discovering anything. He was fatigued, frustrated, and ready to quit up. So he put down his shovel and went away. But what he didn't realize was that he was just 3 feet away from hitting gold. 3 feet. If he had just stayed digging for one more day, he would have struck it rich. But he quit too soon. That's why persistence is so important. You never know how close you are to success or when your breakthrough will occur. So, how can you develop persistence? How do you stay going when the going gets tough? First, stay connected to your why. Why did you set this objective in the first place? What's at risk for you? When you're clear on your why, when you grasp the underlying reason behind your objective, it provides you the fuel to keep going, even when you don't feel like it. Maybe your goal is to offer a better life for your family. Maybe it's to show to yourself that you can do it. Maybe it's to live a healthier, longer life. Whatever it is, maintain that reason in front of you at all times. When things get challenging, remind yourself why you're doing it. That will give you the strength to keep going. Another crucial aspect of persistence is dividing your objective down into smaller milestones. If you're continually focused on the larger goal, it can feel overwhelming and you can lose motivation. But when you break it down into smaller, more achievable steps, it becomes simpler to keep going forward. Celebrate those modest successes. Each time you reach a milestone, no matter how modest, give yourself credit. That progress keeps you motivated and reminds you you're headed in the correct path. But here's the thing, you do need to be adaptable. Being persistent doesn't entail being stubborn. It doesn't mean you keep doing the same thing over and over again, even when it's not working. Persistence involves staying devoted to your goal while being flexible in your approach. If one method isn't working, try another approach. If you strike a wall, find a way around it. Be willing to adapt your plan, but never lose up on your goal. I'm telling you, there were lots of moments in my career when things didn't go as planned. I recall early on, when I was trying to begin my speaking business, I ran into one roadblock after another. I experienced financial setbacks, speaking engagements that didn't go well, and people telling me I wouldn't make it, but I kept going. I modified my strategy as needed, learned from my failures, and stayed focused on the goal. Because I was persistent, finally everything started to fall into place. That's the power of persistence. Now I want to leave you with one more notion regarding persistence. Persistence isn't just about resolve, it's also about faith. It's about having trust in yourself, faith in the process, and faith that if you keep doing the right things, the results will come. You might not see the benefits right away, but if you trust the process and stay engaged, they will arrive. Have faith that your hard work will pay off and your efforts will be rewarded. That faith will take you through the terrible times. So the first thing you need is clarity. Know exactly what you want and state your aim in explicit, measurable terms. Second, break your objective down into actionable steps and design a path to get there. Third, take action. Don't wait for the perfect moment, just start. Even tiny activities executed consistently lead to growth. Fourth, stay accountable. Find someone or something to hold you responsible for staying on track. And finally, be persistent. Keep going no matter how many barriers you confront. Stay devoted to the goal and don't give up. These 5 stages aren't just beliefs, they're a way of life. If you follow them, there's no limit to what you can achieve, whether it's a personal goal, a financial goal, a health goal, or a career goal. These steps will take you from where you are to where you want to be. So get clear, establish a plan, take action, stay accountable, and be persistent. Success is within your reach, you just have to go after it.